The new construction home buying process in North Carolina can be really overwhelming for a lot of buyers, and especially so if you are living out of state or out of the area while your house is being built. On today's video, we're going to go through all of the steps it takes to go from literally dirt to congratulations, here are your keys. We're also going to give you a few hacks and tips and tricks along the way to make the process a little bit easier for you. And by the way, we got to get it out of the way. On the front end, all of the information we're going to provide you is based on the hundreds of clients we've helped build a new construction home over the last 18 years. So it's practical advice, not anything that you're going to find in a book somewhere. So with that all out of the way, the first step in buying a new construction home is research which areas interest you. Now, you're going to come back to this again in step 5 when you start narrowing things down, but really get an idea of where you want to live. So if you're moving to the Raleigh, North Carolina area where my team and I sell real estate, you're going to want to get an idea of about where you want to live. Maybe you need to be somewhere close to a job opportunity that you're going to be moving to. Maybe you're obsessed with Trader Joe's and you need to be near one of the Trader Joe's we have here in our area. Whatever that is, kind of get the process going and get an idea of where you want to move to. And maybe at this stage you're really looking at areas. So you're looking at maybe the Raleigh area and the Wilmington area and the Charlotte area, all of that sort of thing. You're kind of evaluating the positives and negatives. You're going online to get an idea of which area is best for you. And then that moves you on to the next step. The next step, you are gonna wanna figure out what type of home you wanna buy. If you want a condominium in a high-rise building, you're probably gonna be looking at one of the downtowns of one of the bigger cities. If you're needing a beach house, you're obviously going to be looking on the coast. So get an idea of what type of home you want, what your next home needs to be, what's going to fulfill your needs. And by the way, one great way to make that happen is a buyer needs questionnaire. This is a questionnaire that you would fill out with your significant other if you have one, to help kind of get everybody on the same page and get an idea of what you must have in a house, what you'd like to have in a house, what you absolutely can't stand to have in a house. And we have one of those. It's called our B&Q, and we're happy to send that out to you. Just contact us below. That'll help get the process started for you. Next step, and probably one of the most important steps, figuring out what your timeline is. If you have the time to build a house from dirt, that is 6 months to a year, possibly even 2 years, then you can explore the options of new construction from the ground up. If your time frame's a little smaller, like say you need to be somewhere within 1 to 3 or 4 months, well, you still can get new construction, but it's going to be a different kind of new construction. You're going to likely be buying a spec home or speculative home. This is where the builder is building a new construction home and they are assuming what the future buyer is going to want in a home. So in many ways, it's quite general. You're going to get white cabinets in the kitchen versus say green cabinets in the kitchen, that sort of thing that you may want to pick out on your own. And so it's going to be more of a generalized home, but the advantage of it is you're going to be able to move in much sooner than if you built from dirt. The other advantage of it is there's really not going to be any surprises at a design center, and there's not going to be very many upgrades you're going to be able to make, which is a positive in that you kind of can budget for the home and you know what you're going to be getting in 3 to 6 months when the home is done. Negative, obviously, is you're not going to be able to put your personal stamp on the home. And incidentally, one of the advantages of buying a spec home is a home that's almost done is that the builder is likely to have put some incentives on that home to get it sold. The last thing any builder wants is a home that is completely done and sitting waiting for the future owner to come along and make an offer on it. And that's because the builder has carrying costs like interest on their mortgage, that sort of thing. They don't want to be holding on to a home sitting that they're going to be paying money for, outlaying money for when no one is coming along. So of course at that point, a good number of builders are going to offer incentives on the home to encourage you to buy that home versus building a home from scratch. And you can definitely take advantage of those if you know the right agent who knows the right incentives that the builder is going to be putting in place. And so step 4 in the process is hire an experienced new construction buyer agent. This would be an agent who works exclusively for you. They have a good bit of experience and they can help you identify the builders that are in the areas you want to be in. They can also help you identify what incentives those builders might be carrying. And their goal is to help you every single step of the way. A lot of inexperienced inexperienced buyer agents are simply going to introduce you to the builder and then show up again at the closing table to get their commission check. That's not what a good experienced buyer agent should do. And in fact, our team is very much focused on new construction sales and helping new construction clients. The process that we're going over today is the process we use to help a buyer every step of the way, to not only just identify the best builder for them, but also to help them with inspections and all of that sort of thing. More on that here in a minute. Step 5 in the process is the exploratory trip. And this is where a lot of people mess up and waste a lot of their time and the real estate agent's time. That is, they don't come to the new area they want to live in and kind of explore and get an idea of, is the area just like what we saw on Google and what we saw on the internet and all of those sort of things, or do we really want to live over in this area? So a lot of people make the mistake of, they come and they say, I absolutely have to be in, we'll say Raleigh if you're moving to the Raleigh area. Well, you may be absolutely obsessed with Raleigh and you may try to find a home in Raleigh that fits your budget and needs and all of those sort of things, but you're completely missing out on some of the other cities around Raleigh that may be a better fit for you. For example, if you fly a lot, you probably want to live closer to the airport versus living on the eastern side of Raleigh if you're moving to the Raleigh area. So that would be an area you'd want to explore, and you would never know that if you came in absolutely committed that you must live in Raleigh, North Carolina and nowhere else. So this whole process of going through the exploratory trip is going to help you narrow down the different cities in that part of North Carolina that you want to live in. It then is going to give your agent the ability to say, okay, well, you want to live over here, these neighborhoods fit your needs, and so now I'm going to go out and explore as your agent and figure out what inventory is available in these specific neighborhoods that would interest you. And this is another example of why hiring an experienced new construction buyer agent is very, very helpful. A normal average agent that maybe doesn't have a lot of experience in new construction is going to go on our multiple listing database service, and they're going to see that there's very few homes for sale over in this area that you want to be in. And they'll leave it at that, and they'll show you the 4 or 5 homes that are in that area. They're not going to think, wait a minute, I know for a fact that that neighborhood that's sold out currently actually has a new phase coming. Or that builder that just sold out that neighborhood is building down the street a new neighborhood, another neighborhood. You need an experienced agent who's going to know that information to make those phone calls to the builder representatives to get the information for you that they can bring back to you. And remember, during this exploratory trip, do not under any circumstances go to the builder's model to get information on your own without your agent there to help you. There are many builders, and unfortunately a lot of them are the more unscrupulous kind, who will tell you that if you come to that first appointment, even if you're just going in to get a brochure and floor plans, that you've voided your opportunity to have a buyer agent help you. Why do they do that? Well, there's a good number of builders out there that just do not want a buyer agent snooping around and causing trouble for them, for their buyers. They would rather go through their process, which means not getting inspections, which means not doing blue tape walkthroughs at the end, all of that, and also not having an extra set of eyes on the whole process. They would rather not have a meddling buyer agent involved in the process. The good builders out there love buyer agents. They especially love good experienced buyer agents who are going to make their job a lot easier and navigate through this whole process. So whatever you do, do not go on your own, because you could very well be voiding your opportunity to have your own representation throughout this process. We actually had this very thing happen very recently with one of our clients who decided they would come to town early before they were going on their exploratory trip with our agent. They went and they looked at some neighborhoods and found something that they really, really liked. They reported back to us and said, hey, I think we found what we would like to go with. Can you help us out at this process? Our agent called the builder, and the builder said, sorry, you can't help them. They've already been through the process. Unfortunately, despite all of our efforts, we were not able to help those folks, and big time, unfortunately. The whole transaction ended in a complete disaster. Our people were miserable. They wish they had never bought with this builder, and unfortunately now they're stuck with a home that they've got to wait a couple years before they can turn over and sell. Next step, after you have gone through the process of figuring out which areas you want to live in and ideally what neighborhoods you want to live in, at that point then you're going to want to pick your builder, and that means deciding between 3 or 4 neighborhoods and deciding which builder is going to best fit your needs based on the floor plans that they offer and also based on the incentives that they could offer. It's at this point you really want to be interviewing the builder to decide, are they a good fit for you, and especially, do they build a good house? So here's a little tip and trick. Never just go to the model. Almost all builders build great models, but there's some builders who build really bad homes that you would live in, and so you want to not just go to the model to get a feel for things, you want to go to some of their construction to see what that looks like. Again, obviously you're going to want to take an agent with you to go see that construction site. Lots of builders don't want regular folks just wandering around and possibly getting themselves hurt, but you want to go with your agent to look and see what the build quality looks like, to decide if that builder should be on the yay list, to let's further explore our options with this builder, or the nay list because this builder has no business building dog houses, much less people houses. So at this point you've narrowed down the builders, you've decided on the ones that build a good house, and now you want to explore the incentives to see what incentives that builder offers so you can decide between option A and option B. And again, you need to have your agent ask the question, what incentives are out there? Some are advertised and some simply aren't advertised. We have one builder that we sell quite a bit of homes for that has extra incentives for our clients only because we've sold so many homes. It's part of their loyalty program, and so you would never know that if you didn't ask the builder what incentives you have. And then some builders just simply don't have any incentives in place, but an experienced agent during this whole negotiation process is going to ask, hey, would you be willing to pay X thousand dollars of closing costs for the buyer? Or in the case of a recent client we just had, the builder is going to pay part of their lease termination fee. I think it's like a $5,000 fee to terminate their lease so they can buy this builder's house. The builder's going to pay half of that. That's something that your agent would ask for, and if your agent isn't experienced, they probably wouldn't even know to ask for that. The next step in the process is coordinating your mortgage if you need one. So a lot of the incentives that builders offer are sort of tied to a mortgage, so that the mortgage vendor that they have, their preferred lender for the builder, is giving a contribution of, say, closing costs, where the lender gives half the closing costs and the builder gives half the closing costs. This is, of course, if you use that lender. These may be amazing incentives for you. Definitely recommend you go to the preferred lender and get the scoop on what things are going to cost. But we also recommend you take a next step of getting a second opinion, getting another mortgage person that isn't affiliated with the builder to give you what their numbers would be, so that way you're able to go apples to apples and decide which deal is a better deal. There are sometimes when the preferred lender will give you a favorable rate or better closing costs than, say, a second opinion mortgage person would, but they hide things in the fees that you're going to be paying upfront at closing. So the result of it could very well be that the preferred lender of the builder, that deal may not be as good a deal as a deal you could get on your own. Again, compare apples to apples so that way you're armed with the knowledge. And know that if you're buying in the local Raleigh area, we have 3 very good, very qualified local mortgage brokers that we're happy to send to you. Simply just message us. We'll be happy to send you that list. The next step in the process is reviewing the builder's contract. So you've got to the point where you know which builder you're going to use, you know which home you're going to purchase or floor plan you're going to build. At this stage, then you're going to get presented the builder's contract. And so just so you know, this is not a standard North Carolina offer to purchase contract, at least it usually isn't. By and large, most of the time, builders have their own contracts that are slanted in their favor, so you're gonna want to read over this contract. Very often they're gonna send it to you to e-sign, which makes it a little bit difficult to read and take your time to read. Definitely hire that experienced real estate agent who's going to take the time to read through it and give you any warnings that you may have. We tell the story all the time of buyers that we had many years ago that were going to be buying a home, we looked through the contract and realized that that contract said that the builder had up to 3 years to build this house, which is pretty unheard of. Most of the time they commit to building the house or having the house completed 12 months from the time the footings go in, or somewhere in that range or less. But this builder gave themselves a 3-year window to build this house. Once we, after reviewing the contract, let our clients know that, they moved on to another builder. They just simply couldn't wait 3 years to get their home built. Bottom line, it doesn't necessarily mean the builder is going to take 3 years to build the house in that instance. But again, the builder has all of the power. They have the ability to delay things if they need to based on that contract. That's something you need to know before you sign your name on the dotted line. The good news is, if you're buying in the Raleigh area, my team and I have got a ton of experience working with most all of the builders out there. We know which ones are going to be dragging their feet and taking forever to build the home, and which ones are going to get them done actually early. Next step in the process, making an offer to the builder and going under contract. So at this point, you want to determine what you're going to pay for the house. A lot of builders are going to say, here's the cost, take it or leave it. But in a lot of instances, that's not always the case, especially with homes that are standing or just about to be done. At this point, you can offer less or ask again for some incentives. It's not going to hurt anything. No builder is going to tell you mean things. They're going to say yes or no, or they're going to come back with another offer. Also, at this point, you're going to need to decide what amount of a builder deposit you're going to put down to secure that lot or to secure that home, to make sure no one can come in behind you and swoop in and take the home away from you. Builder deposits are usually set by the builder, but they are still negotiable. I've seen things anywhere from a couple $1,000s up to $10,000 for luxury, or even $50,000 for high-end luxury homes. Again, these are negotiable. It's definitely something you would want to put in to your initial offer on the home. The next step is go through the design center process. Now, if you're buying a spec home that's almost done or completely done, there's obviously not going to be any design center meetings that you would go to. But if you're building a house from dirt or one that has just gotten underway, likely the builder could offer you the opportunity to go to a design center to make selections on things like carpeting, flooring, tile, paint colors, countertops, cabinets, etc., plumbing, all of those things. This is a 1-day to a 4-day process depending on how the builder has everything set up. And again, this is something where your experienced new construction buyer agent is going to be very, very helpful, very, very crucial in the process, in that they're going to be able to help you identify which items are very good for you to add as upgrades and which ones might be too excessive for the neighborhood you're buying in. They're going to be a sounding board to give you their opinion on what looks good and what doesn't look good. The next step is the build process, and this can take anywhere from 3 months to 6 months for a traditional home, all the way up to a year to 2 years for a high-end luxury, very large home. Throughout this whole build process, it's a really good idea for you to make regular site visits to the home to get a feel for what's going on, to see if anything was done incorrectly, where maybe they put a door where there's supposed to be an opening, or maybe they forgot to put a closet into a room of some kind. This is an error that happens sometimes, where a builder may have a design plan and the subcontractors don't notice the modification you've made, and so they don't put a closet in. The good news is, if it's caught early, it can easily be fixed, and so it's therefore not a problem. But again, it's really a good idea to make regular site visits. But what if you live out of state and you can't make regular site visits? Well, again, this is a great reason to have a buyer agent help you out. They would go make those site visits on your behalf and video the property to get you an idea of what's going on. So if there's any discrepancies, they know what's going on, you know what's going on, and you can communicate back to the builder before it becomes too late to make any changes. And so know that if you work with our team, we are skilled at doing these videos. We will go through the process of videoing your home, walking through step by step, room by room, as the home is being built. Upload that to a private YouTube channel so you're able to sit in the comfort of your home, no matter where in the world you are, and know that your home is being built properly and on schedule. Next step in the process is the pre-drywall inspection. This inspection happens just before the insulation and the drywall is put up in your home and the walls are hidden. This is where you hire an inspector, and we strongly recommend for all new construction builds, you hire a pre-drywall inspector to go out and determine, is the house structurally sound? Is everything done properly? Is the electrical work that's already been done to the legal code and correct to what you wanted it to be? And if you have a slab foundation, is there any weird cracks in the slab that need to be addressed? Basically, this catches any issues that would happen to the home before the walls hide any of those imperfections. This is also a stage where my team and I will video the home in the stud stage where the drywall is not up. That way you have an idea where there's any electrical in the walls that you probably don't want to nail a hole through, or if there's a pipe running in that section. This gives you an idea of what's going on behind the wall, so that once you move in, any modifications you want to make, you'll know where the pipes are. It makes it so much easier for your general contractors or home improvement folks that you may hire a year or 2 years down the road. It makes it so much easier for them to know what's going on. So again, that is a step that we take on our end, and we recommend if you hire an agent that's not in the Raleigh area that you have them do that videoing as well. The next step in this process is to get regular updates from your builder in case there are any delays. So the drywall is up, the builder is off and running. It should generally take only a few more months to build the home after the drywall is up. But this is this point where you want your agent to be in communication with the builder or the builder representative to determine if there's any delays. Unfortunately, sometimes communication doesn't happen as it should. And we've had instances where buyers have been told that a home was going to be ready in, say, June, and it ended up not being ready until September or August. And that is another tip that I always give out and recommend to people, and our team gives out and recommends. That is, do not terminate your lease or your current dwelling situation. Do not let that lapse, because you could end up like, unfortunately, the client I was just talking about that was promised a June closing, ended up closing, I think, middle of August. They ended up having to get a very expensive short-term rental Airbnb, which was not any amount of fun because it cut into their home improvement money they were going to spend on furniture. Really, really sad situation. And that was even with us communicating with the builder. Just know you do the best you can do with the builder to communicate. Sometimes they don't know what's going on. Sometimes something unforeseen happens. Just know, definitely do not terminate your lease if you're in a rental. Have a little bit of overlap just to be on the safe side. It's going to result in you having a lot more money in your pocket and not having to do any short-term rentals on that back end. The next step in this process, and it's really more of a tip for you, is there's going to be a phase of the home when it's almost completed that we call the ugly duckling phase. That's when you go in and visit the home. Hopefully you don't. Hopefully you don't visit the home at this stage. And everything looks torn up. It looks like a bomb went off. We had a client who bought a home in a new construction neighborhood with one of our very favorite builders. She was local and was making regular stops at the home, and the home hit the ugly duckling phase. She was in a panic and completely out of her mind with this. She called me. I had to drive 45 minutes down to the house and explain to her in person what I'm about to explain to you on video. All homes go through this phase. This is where the paint is nicked up and there may be a ding in the wall and the stove doesn't work and it's not hooked up properly and one of the plumbing fixtures maybe doesn't work, and you think the home is never going to make it to closing. You're about a week to 2 weeks from closing. Do not stress yourself over this. The builder does not want to bring back the vendors, the subcontractors, piecemeal, one at a time to do the work. They want to get everything done at one time, the home completed, and then they get the painter back to repaint the entire wall, say. Then they get the plumber back to figure out what's wrong with the plumbing. So know that the ugly duckling phase happens. Luckily, we were able to talk this client through the process. She accepted what I said to her. And 2 weeks later, she bought and moved into an incredibly beautiful home that was completely done. Builder fixed all the ugly duckling phase, and now it's been a happy story thereafter. So the home is almost done at this point. Next step is the final inspection. Again, we always recommend, as we did with the pre-drywall inspection, we always recommend you getting a final inspection. This is where any weird things that got missed by the builder gets caught, like that plumbing issue. I tell the story frequently of the client who bought the townhome that the building subcontractor, the plumbing subcontractor, did not hook up the plumbing from the upstairs tub. And when the inspector went to inspect that tub to make sure the water was able to stay steady in the tub, a giant waterfall came through from the second floor down onto the kitchen island. Now, this would have been fixed by this builder. Absolutely. It was a very, very good builder. They would have fixed it. But wouldn't you have preferred to find that out before you took ownership of the home home and then had to communicate with the builder and have them come out with a subcontractor plumber to get the work done while you're living in the home, yes, you absolutely would have wanted that. Have the other story of clients who had a fireplace that wasn't hooked up properly, gas was leaking into the home, and they had little kids that they were going to be buying this home. They didn't know gas was leaking. We luckily found that out when the inspector tested the fireplace and found out. Builder was able to immediately come out, fix the fireplace. Nobody was in danger. None of the kids were hurt, thankfully. But that's just another example of where final inspection puts your mind at ease. The next stage of the process is the final orientation, your walkthrough blue tape meeting. This is where you walk through the home with a big roll of blue tape. Your agent's going to be there as well, at least they will be if they're on our team, and we would mark the walls for any flaws, any nicks, any dings that got missed by the painter during that ugly duckling phase. The builder's also going to walk you through how to live in the home, how to drain the hot water heater, for example, how the garage door opens, all of that sort of thing. They're also going to go through your inspection report. So you would have had that inspection done prior to this orientation meeting. The inspector generates a PDF report that you can send on to the builder and say, fix it. Builder's usually going to have a lot of those fixed before you even walk into that orientation meeting. And if they haven't been able to, like say a window was broken and they had to special order a window, well then they are at that point are going to say, hey, we know this window is defective. We've ordered it. It will be here in 2 weeks. We can coordinate getting into your home with you and get it all replaced. No problem. But this is the stage where you are about to take possession of the home. Everything should be pretty close to buttoned up, and you're getting to learn about your new home, and you're certainly getting excited about your new home. The next stage in the process is closing day. And incidentally, this isn't the last step in the whole process, but closing day could very well happen a couple of hours after that orientation meeting. Likely it happens probably 3 or 4 days later, so that gives builder more time to get all of those inspection items handled. But on closing day, you're going to have 2 steps in the process. You're going to meet at the home, make sure everything looks good and make sure you're happy. You're going to probably sign off on some documents that the builder has saying that you're good with the home, or that there's a plan that the builder has to get the last remaining items, like that window, for example. So all that gets handled, and then you go to the attorney, sign all of the closing documents, which would include mortgage documents if you're getting a mortgage. At that point, you are likely to get the keys. The attorney's going to hand you the keys and congratulate you. And at that point, once the home is recorded, that home is officially yours, and you can begin the move-in process. And that brings us to the next step in the process. That's the 12-month re-inspection. At the 12-month mark, you will have ideally been identifying any flaws in the home. If you're buying in the Raleigh area, you're probably going to have some nail pops, because homes in our area settle because we have a lot of clay soil that causes a minor shifting. So things like that could very well happen. You may have a plumbing issue that has popped itself up over time, and you're going to need the builder to fix that. That is not going to be a problem. They come in on the 12-month mark, make sure everything is covered, make sure you're very, very happy with the home, and that you're very, very satisfied with them, and that you're going to, of course, recommend to your friends and family that they also build with that builder. So if you're going to be buying a new construction home in North Carolina, give us a call or text at the number below. Check out this video. We think you're really going to like this one as well. Like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.